All right, everyone. In my last video, I shared with you a shop with me at Grocery Outlet for a cheap weight loss meal plan. I was able to get all of this food here that you see on the screen for just $22.43 from my local grocery outlet. I was able to get a lot of organic produce, and everything here is plant-based, vegan, and most of it is a whole food plant-based diet. So I was able to get carrots, broccoli, some lentils, black beans, some green split peas, some elbow pasta, a big bag of organic avocados, as well as bananas, potatoes that were organic, some onion, a head of cilantro, some celery, and cabbage. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you how I did my weekly meal prep for the week. I'm going to be using my Instant Pot for a lot of this meal prep because it makes it quick and easy. And in just a moment, I'm going to share with you the complete nutritional breakdown of this meal plan for everything that I purchased here for just $22.43 at Grocery Outlet. So I like to track my diet, especially for weight loss and postpartum and pregnancy, using the Cronometer app. The Cronometer app is a free nutritional tracking app, but you can also upgrade to the Gold membership and get some extra perks like tracking your alkalinity of your diet. So if you were to eat a little bit of everything that I purchased once a day, this would give you 1,600 calories as well as 70 grams of protein and so many vitamins and minerals. Vitamins and minerals are actually what I really focus on, especially for a weight loss diet, because I want my body operating perfectly without any deficiencies. So I really try and focus on high vitamin and mineral content rich foods. The percentages that you see on the right here are for my own personal percentage goals, but you can put all of this information into your own Cronometer account and get your own percentage for this meal plan. But I also share in the description below a free printable shopping list for this meal plan that you can get at Cronometer. All right, so like I said in this video, I'm going to just give you a quick rundown of how I prepared all of these foods so that when I come to mealtime throughout the week, all I have to do is basically reheat food or grab a few ingredients and cook them together briefly to have meals ready to go. Now, everything that I'm preparing for the week is for just one person, and it's for me specifically, and I am postpartum right now and I'm breastfeeding, so 1,600 calories is not actually sufficient for postpartum breastfeeding. So I am going to be adding a few extra foods to my own personal diet to meet my calcium requirements and my calorie requirements. So I am going to be adding some things like chia seeds and probably some blackstrap molasses because those are both really high in calcium. And then probably some hemp seeds and like some walnuts or other things that I already have. And then there's a few pantry staples that I also have as well that I'm going to be using throughout the week, such as olive oil, some Redmond's real salt, some nutritional yeast, some spices, a little bit of flour. But those are all optional. You can really use this whole shopping list as all you eat for the week and get 1,600 calories and 70 grams of protein according to the Cronometer app. Okay, so the very first thing I like to do is I like to cook the black beans in my Instant Pot. And when I do what's called a quick soaking method, I have a video where I share in detail on how to do this. I'll share that in the description below. But basically, you cook the beans for 5 minutes on high pressure, then you rinse them, and then you cook them again for 30 minutes on high pressure, and they're ready to go. All the way from dried to cooked in about 40 minutes in the Instant Pot. So that's amazing, especially if you're trying to save money and purchasing dried beans. You don't necessarily want to be spending hours and hours cooking beans on the stove or like in a slow cooker, things like that. Okay, and then I also just washed my cilantro. I'm also going to wash the rest of the produce in a combination of a little bit of white vinegar and water. This is just to get any of the dirt off as well as any additional pesticides or chemicals that may be on the surface area of the foods. And I found it also kind of helps keep the food a little bit fresher longer. So I just washed and chopped the cilantro and I store it with a paper towel in a Pyrex container with a lid. Now I'm chopping the celery, and I'm actually right now removing the scraps of celery that you wouldn't necessarily want to eat as celery sticks or in a soup. I'm going to reserve those, and I'm actually going to use them to cook some vegetable stock. So instead of purchasing vegetable stock, I'm using a lot of the vegetable scraps to cook the stock. So I'll be sharing with you in a moment how I do that. But I'm going to be using the bottom of the celery here. I'm cutting off that really nubby part, but I'm using the bottom of the celery that I'm not adding into soups and things like that to make the stock like you see here. And then for the stock, I'm just kind of like roughly chopping the vegetables. I'm going to be adding celery, onions, and carrots into my stock pot here. And then I'm just going to saute that for a few minutes until it starts to brown. Then I'll add some dried herbs that I already had on hand, and I'll cover it with water and I'll simmer that for 30 minutes. Now I'm preparing the rest of the vegetables for a variety of uses throughout the week, and I like to just get all the chopping done in one day, if possible, so that I don't have to keep washing produce throughout the week and washing my cutting board and things like that. If I can actually just get all of my, say, carrots cut into the different shapes and sizes that I plan to use them for throughout the week, then this will just save me so much time. Now, this is kind of like some work here. It definitely takes a little bit of effort to wash and chop all these vegetables. And that is actually why you're able to get the food for so cheap, because you're not paying for someone else to do this for you. If you can't do this, then there's small kitchen appliances that can help you. You can use a food processor to shred vegetables and chop vegetables for you. That's really great. And then if you have a few extra dollars, you can actually purchase a lot of these vegetables already prepared, especially at stores like Trader Joe's. All right, and then I'm chopping the broccoli. I'm reserving the stems for probably like a soup, but I don't want to throw those away. I want to try and use all of the vegetable scraps that I can. All right, so one trick that I'm doing, because I'm preparing all of these fresh vegetables that I want to have last for a whole week in the refrigerator, I like to wash them, then drain them and rinse them so that they are dry, and then I put them into the meal prep container like this with a dry paper towel. That dry paper towel is what's going to absorb a lot of the extra moisture and help me keep these vegetables fresh throughout the week. I only do that actually though with like foods that have a really high moisture content that I'm worried about going bad. I don't do that with the onions. I just store the onions in an airtight container. One trick though is do not pre-slice your onions because they will make your entire refrigerator smell like onion. Okay, now I'm cutting the cabbage in half and I'm taking out the core. The core is really hard. You can't really eat that part. Now I'm going to shred this cabbage. I'm going to shred the whole thing. And no, I'm going to shred half of it right now, and then I reserved the other half for later on in the week. But I should have actually saved some of those whole cabbage leaves so that I could make cabbage tacos, because after I shredded it, I realized I actually really like cabbage taco shells. So that's one trick that you can do to make tacos without having to purchase tortillas. Okay, and then I also went ahead and I shredded some carrots. I'm going to put those for like burrito bowls and toppings. And then I have carrot sticks as snacks. Now, another way I'm going to be doing the carrots, celery, and onions is I'm dicing them into equal size pieces, and I'm going to be putting them into this bowl here, and this is going to be a combination of vegetables that are diced together called mirepoix. And mirepoix is a French culinary term that this mixture of vegetables is used as the base in so many different soups that are found in French culinary cuisine. So it's basically an equal parts diced celery, carrot, and onion. Oftentimes I'll purchase that actually pre-diced at Trader Joe's. I have a lot of recipes using mirepoix vegetables, but I just saved myself so much money actually just chopping up the vegetables that I already had on hand myself. All right, the black beans were finished with their first cook. Now I'm doing the second cook for the dried black beans. This is when the beans actually cook down, and it's the final cooking process in the Instant Pot for the black beans. So I added a big heaping tablespoons of ground cumin, salt, garlic powder, and dried oregano. Then I covered the beans with water. Now I'm going to put them back into the Instant Pot and cook them for another 30 minutes on high pressure, and then my dried black beans will be all finished. That whole pound of dried black beans I can cook for in about 40 minutes from dry to ready to eat in my Instant Pot, which I think is so amazing and especially great for budget meal prep. Okay, so while those black beans are cooking, I'm going to be cooking my vegetable stock. Now in this pot, I have scraps of carrots, onion, and celery, and I just turned the heat on the pot, and I'm going to saute them until they're starting to brown. If it starts to burn, you're just going to add like a quarter cup of water to saute these vegetables in water. We're basically just trying to get them nice and tender and aromatic. After that, I'm going to add some dried seasonings. These are just extra seasonings that I had on hand that I wanted to use up. So I put dried thyme, dried parsley, and a mixture of this onion salt from Trader Joe's. So you can put whatever seasonings into your vegetable stock that you prefer. Like I said, I'm just using up what I had on hand that I wanted to just finish those jars. All right, now I'm going to be adding about 8 cups of water to this pot, and I'm just going to simmer this pot of vegetable scraps with those dried herbs for about 30 minutes on medium-high heat. Now, when you're done, you do not want to actually dump out the liquid. You're going to reserve the liquid and dump out those vegetable scraps. And I like to multitask while I'm in the kitchen, so I'm going to be doing a third pot right here of boiling water with some salt to cook my macaroni pasta. I'm cooking about half of the package. This is 1.5 cups of dried elbow pasta. I'm going to be cooking this for a macaroni potato salad, so I'm actually going to overcook the pasta for about 16 to 18 minutes. And here's just like a quick overview of what my kitchen looks like while I'm meal prepping for this cheap weight loss meal plan. I did all of this meal prep. It took maybe about an hour from start to finish, and I was also filming this video, so that took me a little bit of extra time. But this hour in the kitchen is really going to save me throughout the week because look at all these vegetables that I don't have to chop up and prepare. When I'm ready to cook or I'm ready to snack, I can just open up this package of celery or carrots. I can eat those, or I can grab some of that mirepoix and make up a soup with some black beans or lentils or green split peas and so on. And I wasn't joking about multitasking. I was also cooking dinner at the same time. Why not just turn your oven on, put some food in there, and cook your next meal while you're meal prepping so that you're not starving and tempted to eat all of this food right away. Okay, so my pasta was done cooking. I'm going to cool it promptly so that it stops cooking right away. I'm Italian and I would never usually say overcook your pasta, but this one dish for a macaroni pasta salad, you do want to overcook the noodles. So like I said, I cooked those for 18 minutes. All right, and then these are the black beans that I made in the Instant Pot. Look how tender and delicious. These were super fragrant, very flavorful, and those are going to go great throughout the week. And here is what the vegetable stock looks like after it's finished simmering for 30 minutes. You see how the liquid I've reserved in that pot is nice and brown and dark? That's the vegetable stock. Now, the vegetables that are in the strainer are actually trash. I'm just going to throw those out. But you could puree those into making a vegetable broth, but I actually really want the stock. I don't want the broth. And then there's what the black beans look like. Now, so I don't have to have black beans go bad in the refrigerator, and so I can eat them every day of the week. I'm taking about half of those and putting them into a freezer-safe bag so that I can put them in the freezer and thaw them later on in the week. Now I'm cooking up 3 of my potatoes in the Instant Pot as well. I have a video that I share in detail on how to cook the potatoes in the Instant Pot. I'll share a link in the description, but basically I cook these on high pressure for 12 minutes. Now you can cook all the potatoes like this, but I just did 3 so that I don't get bored with boiled potatoes. I could do other things with the potatoes if I want, and I'm going to cook those later on in the week. All right, and that was it. So check out the link in the description below where I share a free printable shopping list that links you to Cronometer app website. And that's also going to share with you all of these nutrition facts that I shared with you earlier in the video. Here's another view in case you missed it. This is me actually inputting these into the Cronometer app so you can see really like how great that app is for tracking all of these vitamins and minerals and nutrition for all of these foods. All right, well, thanks for joining me in this video, and stay tuned because my next video, I'm going to be sharing recipes of how I'm actually using the meal prepped food throughout the week. All right, and then check out my plant-based weight loss playlist where I share a whole bunch of other meal plans and grocery hauls. And I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.